You study the lives of successful people. You read their books. You listen to their advice. You try to map their decisions. You want to find the one brilliant move, the secret formula, the hidden insight that made them rich. But what if there is no secret? Most people assume extreme wealth comes from extreme intelligence, a stroke of genius, a perfectly timed investment. But that's not quite right. And the real answer is far simpler and hiding in plain sight, because the most powerful force in finance isn't being smart, it's being patient. Consider Warren Buffett. In one famous breakdown of his fortune, almost all of his wealth arrived after his 65th birthday. That is the part that breaks our brains. His skill is investing, but the force doing the heavy lifting is time. He is not even the most extreme example when measured by annual returns. Some investors have produced higher yearly returns over shorter windows, but shorter windows matter. If you begin later or stop sooner, compounding has less runway. Buffett's superpower was not just genius, it was longevity, but that's only half the story. And honestly, what comes next explains why this is so hard for us to understand. In the early 1900s, a Serbian scientist named Milutin Milankovic had a theory about what caused the ice ages. He believed the gravitational pull of the sun and moon gently changed the Earth's tilt. Sometimes the northern hemisphere would get just a little less sunlight in the summer. A Russian meteorologist named Vladimir Köppen then realized the critical nuance. The trigger wasn't a brutal winter. It was a summer that never got warm enough to melt the previous winter's snow. That tiny leftover base of ice made it easier for snow to accumulate the next winter, which made it more likely to stick around the next summer. This reflected more sunlight, which cooled the summers further, which allowed even more snow to stick around. A small, barely noticeable starting point, compounded for centuries, eventually covered the entire planet in miles-thick ice. As one glaciologist put it, it is not necessarily the amount of snow that causes ice sheets, but the fact that snow, however little, lasts. Your money works the same way. You don't need a tremendous force to create a tremendous result. You just need a pretty good return, sustained for the longest possible time. That's when compounding runs wild. But there's another layer to this, and it might be the strangest part of all, because getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two different skills. Getting money requires taking risks, being optimistic, putting yourself out there, but keeping money requires the opposite. It requires humility and an acceptance that past success isn't a guarantee of future returns. It requires you to survive. In the early 1970s, Warren Buffett and his partner Charlie Munger had a third investing partner, Rick Guerin. He was just as smart as them, but he was in a hurry. When the market crashed in 1973, Guerin was heavily in debt. He'd used leverage to make bigger bets, and he got wiped out. He was forced to sell his shares to Buffett for a tiny fraction of what they would become worth. Guerin was skilled at getting wealthy. He wasn't skilled at staying wealthy. So here's what actually happened to Warren Buffett's fortune. He started investing as a child. He achieved very good but not magical returns. He survived decades of recessions, crashes, and panics without getting wiped out. He let his investments compound, uninterrupted, for over 75 years. And he let the simple math of time do the real work. It wasn't one thing, it was one thing, lasting a lifetime. We look at billionaires for clues about how to get rich. We hunt for complexity and genius because we think that's where the reward is. But we overlook the most powerful force because it seems too simple. We are taught to chase the highest returns, but the real prize is in the longest timeline, and the only way to have a long timeline is to not be wiped out along the way. Your intelligence won't save you, your survival will.